Without a shadow of a doubt, it's the Crockett Show in social media history. I want to welcome you to another episode of the War Zone. I got a special guest in the building tonight, my man Michael Fennell. And y'all already know who I am. Call him and tell him I'm the 5-star general. They got a monster called Exxon Mobil. And that monster destroyed Michael Fennell and altered his life forever. We're going to talk about it tonight. Oh, by the way, Exxon Mobil, in my Bernie Mac voice, I ain't scared of you motherfuckers. I can promise you that. Say, man, let me take this real quick. I am in the middle of my show. I have just started. Thank you. Y'all forgive me, man. My phone rings constantly. On an average, I'll get about 100, 125 calls a day from people that need help. And I try to answer every single call so that you know that you're dealing with a real person. I'm going to start it off by saying that crime is at an all-time high. Of course, the county judge, Lena Hidalgo, who's a misfit, that has no business being in office. Last night, my homeboy, Skip Flanagan, was I guess he was at some place, a game room or something. The game room got robbed by some black youngsters. They pointed 2 guns at Skip, and one of them wanted to kill him. Just so happened Skip made it out the building with his life, minus his wallet, his watch, and his money. We have to do something about this crime, so I'm going to beat this drum from this day forward that Lena Hidalgo needs to go, that Adrian Garcia needs to go, Rodney Ellis needs to go, because we have to get this county back safe again. I come to you all the time with different stories and different scenarios. And tonight, this one, really, really, you guys, hold on a second. Gotta call you back. I'm in the middle of a show. Y'all, hold on a second. Let me try this here. We're gonna do something different. All right. I come to you with different stories and different shows, but tonight we're gonna talk about a certified gangster, and that gangster is called Exxon Mobil. Now, for those that don't know who Exxon Mobil is, as you're driving down the road, some of these chemical plants are owned by Exxon Mobil. There's a big old plant, and I passed it many, many times on I-10 when I was out in them streets coming from Houston going to Louisiana with them birds in the car. But I would always pass this plant, and I was like, wow, I never wanted to work in one. But I would always pass this plant, and I had, people in my family that worked in plants and told me how good the money was and all the stuff. But they also told me some of the bad things about working in a plant in an area like Beaumont, Texas, or Port Arthur. If you're not familiar with that Golden Triangle area, it's a hotbed for racism. We know that, one of the closest towns to Beaumont is Vida, and it even took the federal government to come into Vida, Texas years ago. This is in the 80s, y'all, 90s, and force these people to allow black people to live in public housing without being harassed or possibly killed. We know that Golden Triangle area is a hotbed close to Jasper, Texas, where, James Byrd Jr. was drugged behind his truck and decapitated, basically. If you live in the Beaumont area, those plants that are there, Port Arthur, Beaumont, especially Beaumont, they're the source of income for thousands of people. And if you work in those plants as an African American, it's a place that you could never imagine the amount of racism that you would incur. Now, we normally think that when we deal with racism on the job, we take it to HR and they're supposed to deal with it. Not at Exxon Mobil. not at Exxon Mobil. My man is going to sit here and tell you the story of what Exxon Mobil did to him after being a faithful employee who never really had any issues on his job, but dealt with the racism. And when he tried to address it, they destroyed his life. Destroyed his life. He lost, he lost his child behind these people. But I'm not going to speak on it. I'm going to introduce you to my guest, Mike. Mike, what's going on, brother?
How's it going, Mr. Five Star?
Man, it's good, man. We've spoken we've spoken more than a couple of times, and you reached out to me because you were kind of like at wit's end dealing with this issue that you were dealing with, and you needed some help. And I will tell you that I believe in my heart that everybody that calls me for help, God sent them to me. God sent those people to me as a last resort. And normally they come and I tend to help them out. Now, y'all that's out there, I need a favor from y'all because, of course, we have media watching. I sent out something to some media folk that I know. But I want you to tag every single media outlet that you can tag. I need y'all to do that for me, whether it's local or national. I need you to tag every single media outlet because this story needs to be told and it needs to be heard. So, Mike, start us at the beginning, and I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Don't move because if you move, you're gonna miss something important. Tell them what happened to you, Mike.
All right. First of all, Mrs. Five Star, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to be on your show tonight. I am a 47-year-old African American male, native of Beaumont, Texas. Exxon Mobil is the main source of employment in our area, the Golden Triangle in which you had spoke of. 16 years of employment, clean record, clean work ethic, worked all overtime. Racism inside the refinery was always to the point of microaggression. From 2015 to 2020, when I exposed these issues, the racism was elevated to an all-time high. Am I still connected, sir? Right. All right. Well, I incurred a tremendous amount of backlash and racism when I spoke on issues that affected the African American workforce at Exxon Mobil. Not knowing what I was partaking in by just speaking up on some issues, I went to Exxon Mobil HR initially and complained.
Before you go there, what are some of those issues that you dealt with?
Well, you deal with minorities not getting opportunities to progress to the proper chain of commands in order to maximize their potential and positions inside the organization and inside the corporation. When you speak of these type of issues, you incur a considerable amount of backlash from supervision that is led by management, that is okay by corporate, which I found. I was spit at for speaking on these issues. They were trying to alter my pay by allowing white counterpart, or white privilege, if I might say, coming in and taking vacation from me while they were on vacation. They were taking my overtime while they were on vacation. This was okay through management. Taking my vacation after working the whole year. Well, after watching minority after minority not making the cut, getting fired, I started to notice a pattern. And with these patterns that I noticed, I started documenting. Because once I seen it happening to so many, why couldn't I have said that it was going to happen to me one day? And lo and behold, that came to fruition.
Have you guys ever dealt with the fact that of being called N words or having your workstations bothered in a racist manner?
Yes, yes, we've had spray painting of the former guy on equipment. Um, I've been called a black bastard, a dumb black bastard, while being accosted. Received phone calls called the N word. I've been told that I've been watched. There has been threats. There has been things sent to me via text. I was asked literally to change my position to protect the counter-white part, my counterpart, which was the white guy. And when I refused to do that, it caused a chain reaction, and they forced over 600 employees outside of the Exxon Mobil facilities. Now, you might be looking at the media, and the media might be saying it's about seniority, it's about safety. Well, Mr. Five Star, let me give you this. Safety is something that you work on every day. That's no reason to hold people out of their job for 9 months. Seniority is something that never mattered because they've always did what they wanted to do. The intentions of locking those people out of their jobs is to cause so much stress, so much anxiety, and financial hardship to where they won't speak of, they won't remember, and they won't think of the racial injustice that was happening inside those facilities. That's the mission.
So you telling me and these people that over 600 people lost their jobs that were African Americans?
No, the way that they do it, and the way that this happened. I'm gonna give you a scenario with the Denzel Washington movie when he was the guy in the train, and the guys was robbing the bank, and he asked the gentleman, "How do you expect to get away with this?" And the gentleman that told him, "I'm gonna walk right out the front door." Well, if you remember at the end of the movie, everybody donned red jumpsuits, including the black bad guys. So everybody got to walk out the front door. That's basically what this is. In order to hide the racial issues, we're going to push everybody out. There was
now when you say everybody, give us a number. It doesn't have to be the exact number, but close to the number of African Americans that were moved out of this facility.
Well, there was over 200 that was affected.
Okay, so not 600, 200.
Right,
so
there's 200 that was affected.
Now here's a question, because I want to ask questions, and my people will even ask questions.
Okay.
How many white guys you think lost their jobs during that time?
If I had to guess, and that's what I don't like to do. I don't like to play the guessing game, but I will tell you that there was a pattern of minorities being fired. And this pattern was created through HR. And actually, there's some speculation that the union leadership was protecting the company for their own benefits, for their own progression, for their own protection. So when the minorities were being, quote unquote, sabotaged through HR in order to remove them when they were a threat to our white counterparts, you heard nothing of it. So I began to research and contact these people, and I started to find out what was going on, why they were being fired, why they were no longer there. And I stumbled on something very disturbing. It was a pattern of them sending information to the company via the union, and this information never goes anywhere. and these people just lose their job and go move on. I felt like this had to stop some way, somehow. And with me addressing these issues, they put me in a circumstance, or they put me in an environment to where it was so hostile, it was so unbearable that I had to remove myself from the facilities. Once removing myself from the facilities, they created a stigma by attacking my family, attacking my wife, attacking my child, attacking members of my circle of friends, and forced me to do certain things in order to maintain my employment.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. We got a question.
Yes, sir.
Kenitra Walker say, and there's some things, guys, that he's not going to be able to say because he's in the middle of a court case. So what we don't want to do is sabotage his court case. But if you can answer this question, can you explain about the information that the union was sending them? Because the way I'm grabbing it, it's sort of like the union were putting the workers on a tape, on a platter. They would
Correct.
send in a complaint to them, knowing full well they're not going to do anything with it, and
Correct.
that they would probably just terminate this person, and that way the union don't have to represent them, and the company no longer has a problem.
Correct. Okay, so the question says, are we going to address that question, or are we going to move on from that one?
You can address it if you choose to.
Okay, can we put it back up if you don't mind, so I can? Okay, this is Kenitra Walker. Okay, can you explain about the information sent to the union? Normally, the information sent to the union is personal documentation of that particular employee that they have accumulated throughout the process of their hardship at that facility at Exxon Mobil. Is their own personal information. It's usually their own personal documentation, may it be pictures, write-ups, things that they're addressing, not being properly trained. And when they're asked to provide this information, you have a union that the middleman between the company and yourself, and this information generally, most likely, and most of the time goes nowhere. And the person is left without a job and looking for employment elsewhere.
All right, well, keep going.
Okay. This was a continuous pattern. And once I stumbled upon that pattern, I began to address it with Union National. And then I didn't get any satisfaction through Union National. I began to address it at Pittsburgh level, which is the national. I gave numerous amount of information and did not receive anything in return as far as resolve, as far as any remedy, as far as any solution to these issues. I realized that it was nothing that they were doing about these issues, and we pretty much was left on the island to deal with a Goliath like Exxon Mobil. And that is a monster. That is a monster to have to deal with on your own, without any kind of representation, without anybody backing you. This is a very stressful thing to deal with.
Kristen Martin had a question. She wants to know, what was your reason for termination? Was it a layoff? Did you go to the EEOC?
I went to the EEOC, and the EEOC gave me no satisfaction. When I went to EEOC, initially I didn't know what they do as far as helping the employees. My initial intent was to get resolved with what was going on with the company. After 4 grievances, I had no choice but to take it outside the barriers of the company. My intention was to mediate and try to find some solution for me to be able to return to work in a safe and a manageable situation. Well, I'll give you this scenario and I'll give you this answer. EEOC is not your friend. EEOC, when it comes to employment, if you don't have a lawyer guiding you through this process, they are heavily influenced by corporations in the state of Texas. I can't speak to anywhere else, but I can speak of the state of Texas. I found that out through speaking to numerous of lawyers in this state. So you will find difficulties if you don't have someone guiding you through that process.
So, okay, so now you got this racial issue. You've tried to go through the EEOC, they wouldn't help you. Well, there's always this one organization, and I know that they want to be prominent in the Golden Triangle area, the NAACP. Did you speak to them?
Yes, spoke to the NAACP locally, and he told me that it's a timely process in order to get something or any kind of resolve. Once I spoke to the local NAACP and realized that my solution needed immediate attention, I located and I spoke with the state NAACP, which is located in the city of Austin.
So from a local standpoint, you dealt with, if I'm correct, Mr. Michael Cooper.
Yes, that is his name.
And on the state level, you dealt with Gary Bledsoe.
That is correct.
Okay.
Well, I had very little dealings with Michael Cooper because that was going to take me nowhere. And speaking with Mr. Bledsoe, he guided me through some processes. And initially, we were wanting to do a class action suit. The workers were still at work. They were not in a lockout at the time, and they were afraid of repercussions or retaliations of trying to do a class action lawsuit because I was made an example of. I was very badly treated. It was plant-wide what was going on. Everybody knew what was going on from management on down to the simple laborer. And that created fear. Exxon Mobil operates off of fear. They operate off of the threat of you not being able to feed your family. They operate off the bully tactic. Exxon Mobil also operate off of potential of bodily harm through processes that I guess you would want to call it the long route, where they will institute other people to sabotage you, to just give you a bad image to where people think that something is going on and something is wrong. And that next thing you know, something happens. Well, they created a stigma that something is going on with this guy, something's going on with this woman, something's going on with this person. And found out that they're a very dangerous company to deal with. I received some information. I received some things prior to the lockout, warnings. Some of these warnings.
Now, some of these warnings were like what?
I would get text messages, just random text messages. One was, it was written in reverse, that my family first and then me.
Now that is all the text messages and all that. That's in your court filings. Am I correct?
I mentioned it to the courts.
Okay.
And upon mentioning it to the courts, these cries were ignored. They weren't taken serious. If anybody has any questions or anything that's going on with my case, you can view the court dockets. You can see my name, Michael Fennell versus Exxon Mobil. Without representation, I am forced in a corner to defend myself as best I can by my words.
And how long have you been defending yourself?
I've been defending myself since November the 12th of 2020.
So
when I filed the initial.
This over a year, almost
yes,
a year
sir.
and a half now.
Yes, sir.
Well, I tell you what, you're cooking with grease, because if you wasn't, you wouldn't be in that courtroom for over a year and a half. The scariest part that when you talked, if you can talk about it, was the just like you said, the threats of physicalities to you on a personal level. Have you dealt with more than just text messages? Have they tried to do anything else to you?
Yeah. The week leading up to a very important appointment, I got some phone calls, intimidating, I guess you would say, to try to intimidate me using the N word. I think I've said that. Um, been run off the road. I had some things happen at my apartment where I was staying, where there was some beating on the side of my apartment, causing me to go outside to see what was going on as a man ran away. There was a young lady that witnessed this, and now that she is in the limelight, she's afraid and she's scared because she sees what's happening to me. But there's a such thing as called a subpoena.
So these people resorted to what I call Gestapo tactics, to where they're now coming to your home, to where you're being ran off the road. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I know that you're a very intelligent guy. You come off as very, very intelligent. But some people are going to say, man, this man he's paranoid, he's crazy. What do you have to say to that?
Well, I tell those people, when you choose to go up against a company like this, and you have the information, and you have the documentation, and you have the track record that I have, it's important for them to attack your character. They do this because the normal mentality of the average day person is to go negative when someone of a stature of Exxon Mobil leads you in that direction. You got to have faith. You got to believe in God. You got to have that inner strength to overcome those doubters, to overcome those people that's going to doubt your integrity and what you speak of. What's the goal and what I intend to do with this situation? What people don't understand, what I went through was horrible. It was unreal. It was something that you would think come out of a horror movie. If somebody would have took the initiative to do what I'm doing today and over the last 4 years, maybe I wouldn't be dealing with what I'm dealing with. So the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is I'm making it better for your kids, my kids, for the future generation. Because somebody got to do something about this. Somebody got to speak. Somebody got to take put that first foot forward and get a solution to these type of things, because it's not going to solve itself. I can promise you that.
Well, there's repercussions to being Rosa Parks. This is what I tell people when we want to take on some battles for the common good, that there are repercussions. And you've suffered far more than just losing your your job. You've suffered more than that. If you can go into that, what else did you lose? The big question is, and if you can answer, because some questions you can't. Where's your daughter? What happened? If you can go into that without going into it.
They went after my wife. They recruited a professional that I trusted. And once they realized that I trusted this professional, they used their power and their influence to recruit this man. And when he saw her, when he knew that she was at her weakest point, he went in after her and he scared her and he scared my daughter, and they left.
How long were you married?
15 wonderful years.
So for 15 years, not any problems. And then all of a sudden this happens and you lose your family.
That is correct, Mr. Five Star.
And here's the thing, because I need people to feel you. How does that feel?
It's empty. It's a very empty feeling. When you work the way that I worked and you try to do things the right way, first of all, let me tell you something. For all those people who doubt me, or for all those people that don't understand what I'm talking about, my history is of non-alcohol drinking. I don't smoke. I have never been in trouble with the law. I've never seen the courtroom other than just a moving violation prior to this situation for the 47 years of my life. Tried to do everything the right way. Tried to do everything according to what the Bible says that I'm supposed to live. With pointing out racism, when someone is racist, let me back up. When you have someone in a position of authority and they are racist, and you challenge that, they become extremely defensive because you're not supposed to challenge them on these issues, because that's why they're racist in the first place, because they feel superior to you. You're not supposed to question. You're not supposed to be intelligent. You're not supposed to be, as what they say, level with them. So they tend to be defensive and they attack you. Now, for all of those who doubt me, win, lose, or draw, there will be a documentary where you're going to see a plethora of information, documentation, 4 years of it, facts, proven facts, all the avenues that I've taken for a solution for all of those African Americans inside that facilities, the bullets that I took for all of those people to have a voice, to have an opportunity to succeed and have a level playing field inside of that refinery was unreal. The backlash that I received, the heartache, the people that I took care of, that I fed, due to the dollar turned against me. They protected themselves. They knew what was going on. They knew what happened. They knew what that facility did to me. But with that fear of losing your livelihood, it mutes them. It keeps them quiet. They know what's going on.
Okay.
They know what this blackout is about.
Let's see if we can get to the meat and potatoes. All right.
Sure.
You tried to address this. Did you seek any attorney help?
Yes. Yes, I was referred to an attorney by the NAACP.
So the NAACP referred you to an attorney, and can you say his name?
The attorney?
Yeah.
Yeah. His name is Nicholas Spencer out of Houston, Texas.
How did that pan out for you?
Didn't work very well. I gave him some documentation, and upon giving him this documentation, I would continuously ask him, what does he think about it? He could never give me an answer. He advised me to do everything that Exxon Mobil asked of me against my better judgment, because I knew that sabotage and deception was a part of Exxon Mobil's MO. Well, Exxon Mobil put me in a spin cycle and started making me, and I'm going to use the word make me because it was a condition of my employment that had I not done this, they would have fired me based on non-compliance, which there's no recourse to that action. So they put me in a spin cycle, tainted my doctor, and caused a chain reaction for me to get caught up in this medical situation in which...
Who referred the doctor? Was it the company?
Yes. Now, the doctor that I had, I found out of Houston, Texas. I found him on my own because I had to try to disconnect myself. But there was an initial attempt to violate my HIPAA rights at an earlier date than July of 2021. No, I'm sorry. It was July of 2020 where I found out, and he admitted to me that he gave my information to Exxon Mobil.
So your lawyer, you giving him documents,
Correct.
and information, and he's turning over your information to the company that he's supposed to be representing you against.
That is the perception, because they have information, and this doctor had information that no one would have had unless it came from that attorney. Now, he told me to do everything that they asked of me. And once I did that, he disappeared. And that's when the retaliation ensued. The retaliation to make me look as if I was some kind of monster. And then once Exxon Mobil was finished and spit me out, this guy reappears. I'm like, you disappear for a whole month while they're doing this to me, and then once it's over, you reappear? And then the questions that he asked me being attentive and just paying attention to what was going on, I realized that there was something going on with this cycle between this doctor, this lawyer, and the corporation. And I was put on an island by myself, and it was definitely sabotage. That's definitely what it was, Mr. Five Star. And the information supports that.
Is this information in your court dockets?
No, I have not turned that in yet. We have not gotten to the discovery phase of it, but I have made mention of it in the court docs. So people can go to my...
Plan on putting it in your court documents? You plan on putting
that is actually... I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I say you're planning on putting it in your court documents.
As far as filing it, as far as giving it to the the courts for part of my
discovery.
filings?
Yeah.
Yes, if I'm allowed to. If I'm allowed to. Now, keep in mind, my initial complaint, I worded it in a way to protect myself, because I noticed the pattern was Exxon Mobil was getting information, and upon getting this information, what people have to understand, everything is on their watch, in their playing field. Everything is in-house. Everything that is done, that has been done, as far as evidence, was done in-house. It was Exxon's facility, Exxon's HR, Exxon's personnel. So I'm playing ball in a foreign country, if you know what I'm saying. So with that information, they're basically just breaking down and biding time to get as much information as they can in order to camouflage what the obvious issue is. Well, the problem with that, Mr. Five Star, is you can lie, you can cheat, you can do whatever you have to do. But the one thing that remains is the truth and documentation. Once again, win, lose, or draw, that information will get out. And what Exxon Mobil did to those minorities inside that refinery will get out. Now, I sent them some information around the first week of December, and I was trying to negotiate with them. I was trying to get them to talk to me, to communicate with me, so we can come to an agreement in order to get those people back to work. I've already been destroyed. I wanted to help get those people back to work, to try to make some kind of deal. Well, they took that information and they used it against me.
Here's my thing.
They gave it to someone.
A word of advice. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Word of advice, just from me to you. If these damn people don't want to stand up for themselves, then you just worry about you. You have to put you before everybody else. That's just my opinion. But keep going.
Yeah, I've come to that conclusion at one point or the other, but at the same time, my character and just being built the way that I'm built, I knew that those people were suffering, and I knew why. They were suffering because I struck a nerve with Exxon Mobil. I exposed something that had been going on for generations inside of that refinery. The lack of opportunity. And I knew that they were suffering for it. So I felt some kind of responsibility for this issue. Exxon Mobil they can solve this by just coming to the table, but they choose another route. And the route that they choose is through corporate influence, through the system. And I'm gonna use the word system to protect myself from the obvious consequences of the path that I have taken. I am caught up in a system that does not agree with the complexion of my skin. If that's understandable.
No, I get it. So my question now becomes, what is it? What would be the best recourse for this? You guys need to understand that I worked on drilling rigs, which is really not that much different than refineries. As far as the atmosphere, I worked on drilling rigs with white guys from Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. So I know about the racism that happens in these types of jobs. And I ended up leaving my job as a chef manager. You know, I was the top dog as far as cooking in the whole company. I trained the cooks. And I left because you ain't finna call me no nigga and think I ain't finna do nothing to you. That's how I felt. And what is your recourse at this point? Because I know for a fact that you're battling a multi-trillion-dollar giant. And a lot of people, they really don't understand the reach that some of these companies have and the things that they will do and the stuff that they will go through and put people through and put their families through. So what type of recourse are you looking to get from this, if you can go into that?
Initially, I wanted change for my community. I wanted to get more minorities the opportunity based on their abilities, not based on the complexion of their skin. I wanted to get us a level playing field. Now, as far as myself and the recourse, all I ask is for Exxon Mobil to come to the table. Don't use your system. Don't use your financial advantages to overcome your faults. As I've done so much research of Exxon Mobil throughout the last couple of decades on how time and time again they have escaped justice because they have all the lawyers. They have all the attorneys. They have government ties. They have dealings. They deal. I'll give you a scenario. I've talked to more than 4, maybe 5 dozen attorneys throughout the United States, not just Texas. And each and every one of them had a similar conclusion to what I was dealing with. And the common denominator was the entity in which my issue was, the geographical location in which I was dealing with, and third, corporate influence within the system. And the fact that Title VII, the Civil Rights Acts, probably needs to be relooked at because it's actually a disadvantage because it puts you in a small category to where there's little to no recourse to what they do. Texas, I'll give you an example. Tesla in California just got sued for similar actions. Actually, the guy didn't have to go through what I went through. It wasn't, I'm not trying to make light of his situation, but they sued Tesla for $137 million. A single person. Little do you know, a week or 2 after that, Tesla decided to move their headquarters to Texas. Texas is a place that protects corporations. Understandable, corporations, they provide jobs. The disadvantage we have is the actual civil rights. The disadvantage we have is the fact that we have a right to work state. And coupled with that, the way that the laws has put themselves, it creates so many loopholes. It creates so many avenues for corruption. It creates so many avenues for the good old boys.
I think he blacked out. Not blacked out, but I think that he's having connection issues. We'll wait for him to come back if you can. But in the meantime, unless you worked in one of these racially charged environments, you really wouldn't understand. Kristen, I get what you're saying. You're saying Michael sounds like a great employee, a good person. There are a lot of missing pieces to this story. He's in the middle of a court case, and he can only discuss what he can discuss. He has all of his documentation. He has all of the recordings. He has all of the pictures. He has everything that he needs to fight this bully. Hold on a second, y'all.
In some kind of way.
Yeah, we're back on, brother.
All right.
So, he has all of his ducks in a row, y'all. But I need y'all to understand that there's some things he cannot talk about. I know you want all of the juice, but to even have him on at this point, I can say what I want to say. And I think you would agree with that, right, Mike?
Yes, sir.
So let me say it a different way for y'all. Let me just say it a different way. He worked in a chemical plant with a bunch of rednecks that was spitting on him, calling them niggers, all this going on. He goes to HR to address it. They try to paint him like he crazy, kick him out the building, and slowly kicked out 200 more of them. So the point is he tried to address it through HR, couldn't get done. He needed help from the NAACP, who turned their backs on him. He was referred to an attorney who ended up working for the enemy. You see what I'm saying? Even the doctor ended up working for the enemy. So the thing is, and Andre Johnson say this sounds like Walmart. I know somebody going through the same exact thing with Walmart right now. And they're pro se too. So you guys that are in corporate America, just because you don't deal with these types of issues, don't think that this cannot happen. Don't think that it cannot happen, man. Because I've been called a nigger on a drilling rig. And at the time it was done to me, Mike, I was in the kitchen because I was the cook. And I was cutting onions. And my knife stayed sharp because, I had the whole little knife set from the restaurant supply place. And I looked at this dude. I said, "What did you just say?" I said, "If you say it again, I'll cut you everywhere except under your feet." At that point, I walked down the hallway to the tool pusher's office. "Get me a helicopter. I need off this rig." "What's going on?" "I'm about to commit a murder." So when you come from Beaumont, Texas, or Port Arthur, Texas, and the best job that you can get is in that plant, and then you can live a decent, life. A lot of people don't want to mess that up. They'll sit there and be called niggas. But some of us don't give a damn if we end up at the shelter. Me, I don't care. But I'm gonna fix your grill for you if you do. So that's where we are. But finish where you were, Mike.
Okay. Well, just to get the record straight, just in case, because just like Mr. Five Star said, I am in a legal situation. I was called a dumb black bastard by my assailant who accosted me on several occasions. There was a phone call that came in that I was called a nigger, and I reported it to the police department, and there was little to nothing done about it. That in itself let me know what I was dealing with in the city of Beaumont.
So they took your career from you.
Yes.
That means I think that you told me, if I remember the numbers right, that you would probably do about 17 grand a month.
Yeah, I was. I mean, at this point, I have no problem with letting you know my salary because of the fact that I worked so much. I was averaging from 160 to 180,000 a year in
Wow.
salary.
And they took that from you.
That was taken away from me.
So they took your salary.
Yes,
They took your 401k.
my 401k is mine. They
Okay.
tried to trick me into taking my pension.
Mm.
Had I taken my pension, that would have been me saying basically, I quit, I retire, versus being fired. It was just another trick that they played in this scenario that I'm dealing with.
Oh, but what I'm basically saying is, you say you're 47 years old, right?
Yes, sir.
The average person retires when they're 65. So
Correct.
that means you had another 18 years to go.
Yes,
So if
sir.
I do the calculations right, if I say this, they owe you your salary for the next 18 years and whatever you've missed since you've been out. They owe you the 401k that you was putting in your 401k for the next 18 years. You see what I'm saying? Whatever was going into your pension for the next 18 years, they owe you compensatory damages. You see what I'm saying? So they owe you tons of money. Tons of money. And if these people were smart that are going through this, it only takes 4 people to do a class action lawsuit. Now, if it was 4 people battling them, they'd have settled a long time ago because they knew they. But one person, they will try to drain the swamp on one person. They will try to fight you to where you ain't got no money, to where your back is against a wall, and you just got to leave it alone. Hey, let me ask you a question. Now, the legal system in this thing can be corrupt too. Do you think you're getting a fair shot in the courtroom?
At this point, knowing what I know and the information that I've gotten through lawyers, my back is against the wall dealing with this issue. When you say a fair shot in the courtroom, the little dealings that I've had thus far, we haven't gotten to the, I guess you want to call it, the meat and potatoes of the issue.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's definitely some kind of upper hand that Exxon Mobil has in this situation, based on
I'm not Michael
the
for
information.
but judges can be bought off. We know several judges that have gone to jail for being bought off in cases. So, there might be a possibility, without you going into anything about that, this is just my way of thinking, that I think that maybe the judge has been bought off in your case.
Come back with that question.
I think that somewhere in there that maybe the judge has been bought off in your case. And Andre Johnson has a question. He say, can you request a change of venue?
Being pro se, I think that'll be a difficult feat for me to try to achieve. I had it in the Southern District initially, dealing with the lawyer that I had. It was in the Southern District of the state of Texas, which is located in Houston. And you can just tell the difference between the way it was being handled there and the way it's being handled here. It was being handled in a faster, more traditional way in the Southern District. And once it got transferred here where the incident occurred, you can just tell the hardship that is being applied by stretching this thing out as long as they can. There's avenues that they can take. There's things that can happen, that can be done to settle this in a more faster pace or a quicker quicker pace than to do what they're doing.
Why you think they want
My gut, my gut, and based on the way that I see this, because I'm no fool, their intentions is to put that gorilla on my back and weigh me down as long as they can until I just give up. Well, here's the answer to me giving up. That may or may not happen, Mr. Five Star. But that information goes nowhere. That information is the truth. That information is 4 years of hardship and 4 years of unthinkable treatment. And for those who doubt me, if that information is released in its truest form, you wouldn't believe what you're hearing and what you're seeing. For a man to go through what I went through, I lost my health because of this, not just my family.
What you're trying to get at this moment is some exposure.
Correct.
Why you the media won't touch this in Beaumont, Texas?
No, I tried on several occasions. Both stations spoke to several people, and nobody would touch it. Nobody would return my phone calls. Nobody would give me the opportunity to speak upon my situation. So it was just red flag after red flag, situation after situation. And once I realized what was going on, what was happening, it was just a load. I mean, when you realize that somebody with such magnitude and such power within your city, because let's call it what it is. Exxon donates to the hospitals, to the school districts, to the small businesses, to everything that goes on is connected to that facility. How can I get a fair trial? See, the things that I'm speaking of is the things that I can speak of because they're in my docket. It can be viewed as public knowledge. And I addressed this and I spoke of this. How can I get a fair trial when outside of my county, with it being federal, is 97% white, non-African American, with a history of being racially driven, with a history of not accepting African Americans and their struggle. So how can I expect a fair trial? Because the way that I see it, they're not a jury of my peers. And if I leave it to the judge, there's already signals and signs to where I know that justice will not be served. So with that being said, if Exxon is listening right now, and I've given them every opportunity to just talk to me, it could have been resolved in a better way than you to just go this way. If something was to happen to me, the information that has been gathered will still get out. Talk to me. That's all I asked him. That's all I asked him. Look what you did. You didn't have to do this, because the consistency of my saying all I ever wanted to do was go to work and do my job and go home was too much to ask when it came down to protecting one of their boys. And the information supports that, whether I get justice or not. Justice will shine a light with the people in the end.
Well, I tell you what, brother, we're gonna try to help you get some justice. And I think I might want to stick my nose off into this because, ain't nothing like coming to court with their uniform in hand. And if y'all want to know what their uniform is, Mike ain't got to do it. I do it. That's a pillowcase with the eyes cut out. We know where we at. We're in the Golden Triangle, where the clan still gathers. So, Mike, I'm gonna wish you luck in this thing, and I'm gonna help you as much as I can help you. And but you guys, I wish he could have said more because it's more detailed than you could ever imagine. But that's about the most that he could say. And I think you get the synopsis of it. So you guys that are out there punching those clocks, working for these companies, and you're getting treated like your last name was Kente, you have to make that decision. Do you want to keep doing what you're doing and be 3/5 of a man or a woman? Or do you want to stand up and say enough is enough? But when you stand up, even Rosa had to learn, when you stand up, you're going to have to deal with the consequences that come with it. And me, I'm built to deal with it. I don't bow down to none of them. You feel what I'm saying? So that's why I couldn't keep no job. I had to start my own company because I wasn't going to make it. You got anything, final words you want to tell these good people, Mike?
Yeah, like I said, you can look at my case docket, Michael Fennell, and that's Michael Finnell versus Exxon Mobil. There's a pattern of when I put information in the docket, and if you look at the articles that Exxon Mobil and the union are putting out, there's a pattern of them reacting to what I'm doing in these courts. And basically what they're doing now is waiting out all the statute of limitations that I have to unify the people that has been harmed with me. So what you said earlier, Mr. Five Star, is correct. The goal is to single me out, is to get me alone, and to make it to be a one-person problem versus a 200-person problem. But there's information out there, and there's people that's willing to talk, and that won't happen. Exxon has to understand they're not going to get me alone. They might try me in the courts alone, but the information suggests that I wasn't alone. And that's how I'm going to conclude this, Mr. Five Star.
I appreciate it. You guys, hold on a second. You guys, you know what it is with me. Yesterday was a tough day for me on the show, and I'm gonna push back a little bit, and not gonna kill the show, but I'm definitely gonna push back a little bit, because it is what it is. And some days when you're fighting these battles and you're fighting them by yourself, you ain't got time for foolishness. So yesterday was pretty tough, and I'm gonna stick to my guns at this moment, and I'm gonna push back a little bit. I thank you for taking the time out, Mike, to have the courage to come on this show and talk about what happened to you, a man that's lost his family, his daughter, his wife, all of that. And now he's hanging on by a thread. He's living off fumes at this point. But I got a strange feeling that you're going to end up winning. That's just how I feel. And God normally tells me what he needs me to say. So I got a strange feeling that you will end up winning. Say, man, it's a reason that I'm the best in the business every night. 7 o'clock, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. It is what it is, man. I want to thank my guest tonight, Michael Fennell from Beaumont, Texas. And you know who I am. Get on the phone and call him. I am the 5-star general. Until I see you again.